Keep the grind up. Welcome everyone to Keep the Grind Up. This is your host Christian. Today we have a guest speaker on the interview space. And our guest speaker is Matambila Karima Chuunga, who is a dynamic and driven individual whose journey reflects resilience, growth, and an unwavering commitment to personal and professional excellence. With a background in information security, Matambila has consistently demonstrated how intentionality, purpose, and courage shape impactful journeys. Her story inspires those navigating challenges, working towards ambitious goals, and seeking meaning in their everyday grind. Through her experiences, Matambila reminds us that every challenge faced is an opportunity for growth, and every small wins matters. That's a robust biography, Matambila. How are you doing?
Fine, thanks, Christian. How are you? Thanks for having me.
I'm doing good. Thank you for choosing to share your knowledge with the community. As we start our interview today, we start our conversation today, we tend to always try to know more about our guest speaker, and we are very happy to have you today. So can you briefly introduce yourself to our audience? Who's Matambila and what are you passionate about?
Thank you. Okay, so as you have rightfully introduced me, my name is Matambila Karima Chuunga. I am a cyber professional. I've been in this industry for about, I think, 15 years now. The last 7 have been specific to cybersecurity. I am passionate about building digital resilience. And I think more importantly, I'm passionate about empowering young women and men in the tech space. So outside of my professional career, I'm also a wife and a bonus mom. So that's essentially me.
Thank you so much for sharing that with us. Would you describe your personal and professional journey so far?
It's been like a maze.
Mm-hmm.
I have had wins, I have had losses, I've had highs and lows.
Mm-hmm.
But in a nutshell, I think the best way to describe it is I've been very intentional. So even
Yes.
from my wins or my losses, they are all part of this package that have helped me to get to where I am today. So I started kind of left field. I did very short accounting course while I was trying to figure out what to do.
Mm-hmm.
And then when I realized what I was passionate about, emphasis on
Mm-hmm.
passionate about, I then
Mm-hmm.
pursued my career in tech. And so I went to, I'm Zambian, and I
Mm-hmm.
went to Australia for further studies because Zambia at the
Mm-hmm.
time didn't have the courses I wanted to do.
Mm-hmm.
And so I did my diploma in software development in Australia, and I also did
Mm-hmm.
my undergrad, Bachelor of IT. I majored in computer security. I worked for 2 internet service providers. So
Mm-hmm.
that was the entry level job into the tech industry.
Mm-hmm.
And I think a year later, I decided to come back home, come back to Zambia.
Mm-hmm.
So it was never my intention to stay there after my
Mm-hmm.
studies, probably pick up some experience and then move back. And so I
Mm-hmm.
moved back to Zambia, and I joined a bank. And
Mm-hmm.
I joined at a very low level, which for me was disappointing. I had all these
Mm-hmm.
expectations, I have
Yeah.
this little experience from
Mm-hmm.
abroad. I joined the bank, and I worked there for, I think, close to 9 years, almost 9, 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
And the bank was bought by another bank. And that's when now my career started to grow. And so
Mm-hmm.
from being an IT officer, I then got the position of team lead,
Mm-hmm.
IT risk and security management, which for me was exciting because then I was like,
Mm-hmm.
no, I'm finally doing what I studied, what I wanted to do. And
Mm-hmm.
then shortly after that, I joined another bank. So I've been in
Mm-hmm.
banks.
Mm-hmm.
It was a step up because now this was a country head position in information
Okay.
security.
Okay.
Did that for about 2, 3 years or so, and then moved to my current role right now. I'm with a bank called United Bank of Africa. It's a Pan-African bank,
Okay.
and where I serve as their regional chief information security officer for countries in southern and east. So it's been quite an interesting journey
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
getting to where I am.
Thank you so much for sharing that. That's an amazing journey. I had a following question around what inspired you to follow your current career. I know you've mentioned about passion, the moment you found your passion and you're able to move on your journey. But would you be able to tell us what inspired you to follow the current career you have and the personal growth path?
So I'll start with when I was very young. My dad is a mechanical engineer by profession, but
mhm,
he was always into tech. And
mhm,
so, me being the little girl, I was interested. And so he would carry me along, he'd show me a couple of things.
mhm,
And that's where the interest started. But I didn't realize that that's a career I could get into
mhm.
when I finished high school.
Yeah.
Believe it or not, I wanted to be a lawyer. It was
Okay.
so different. I wanted to be a
Mhm,
lawyer.
mhm,
So, like I mentioned earlier, I had done a short course in accounts while I was just waiting to figure out what I wanted to do. And
mhm,
so, I took some time just to introspect and then realized, hey, I like working with computers. I think this is
mhm,
something I can explore. And when
mhm,
I did some research, I found some courses, and that's how I pivoted toward the tech industry. And so in college, there
mhm.
wasn't much diversity. We all had to do some level of coding. And I
Okay.
don't like coding. I'm not good at coding, but I had
Mhm,
to do it.
mhm, mhm,
And so when getting to university, that's where I became extremely intentional because I realized what I'm studying, this is the something that's going to carry me for the rest of my life.
mhm.
And I didn't want to do something that I didn't enjoy or find interesting.
Okay.
And I remember just before I went into uni, my guidance counselor and I talked about what we could do. And he was adamant that mobile applications was the way to go. Meanwhile, like I said,
Mhm.
programming and me, I didn't like it. So I knew it
Mhm.
wasn't something I was going to enjoy.
Yeah.
And at the time, a new course had come up, which
Mhm.
was the computer security course.
Okay.
So I did a bit more digging into the course content, and every single elective or main course I found in there was
Mhm.
intriguing to me. I mean, this
Mhm.
is circa 2004, and we
Mhm.
had classes on digital forensics, for example. We had
Yeah.
classes on information warfare. So that piqued my interest, and I enjoyed my degree from start to finish.
What does growth mean to you, both personally and professionally?
That's a great question.
Okay.
That's a great question.
Mhm.
Growth to me means
Mhm.
evolving with intention. Typically we look at it as a just moving forward, but in my experience, both professionally and personally, it means learning from every single experience, the good and the bad. So when I look at my journey, I started off in a call center. Anyone who's worked in a call center, it's stressful. That is such a stressful job. But it taught me patience. It also taught me active listening, which I didn't realize until later on in my career when I started moving upwards. You look at also every win. So it's a case of I've achieved this one thing. I need to sustain this and move to the next level. Also, I believe you have to stretch beyond your comfort zone. Otherwise, you will not grow. Looking at myself, when the role came up for country head of information security,
Okay.
even though I applied, I felt I wasn't ready. I had imposter syndrome.
Okay. Mhm.
Turned the job down.
Mhm. Mhm.
Turned the job because I thought, okay, I've applied, I've got the role, but I don't think I'm ready. And through that, I learned that being ready, honestly, is a decision, really a decision. You have to decide, again, stretch beyond your comfort zone to be better. And when you stretch beyond your comfort zone, then you become ready.
Thank you so much. Stretch beyond your comfort zone. That's amazing. What habits or routines have helped you stay grounded and focused as you work towards your objectives?
So I'm one of those people who sticks to a routine.
Okay.
I'm not spontaneous. I like
Okay.
order, right?
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
so going back to when I started years ago, I made it a
Hmm.
point so I start my day by, when I wake up, obviously I'll say my prayers, gratitude. Oh, I'm big on
Hmm.
gratitude.
Hmm.
And then I will go to the gym.
Hmm.
And from the gym, I will get to the office. And I can say 9 times out of 10, I am always the first person in the office. And that's
Hmm.
something that I started even when I was at a very junior level.
Okay.
I also believe in just being ready.
Hmm.
So even though we are expected to clock in, say 7:30, I'm in the office at 7. Because between 7 and 7:30, I can get a lot done. But also, in being in a tech space, you have to catch up on news, try and see what's going on so you have an idea. Yeah, so for me, just the fact that I had this habit that I developed more than 15 years ago is wake up early, start early. I've seen a saying that says, win the morning, win the day. And that's something I strongly believe in. And also, I believe I'm more productive in the morning than I am in the afternoon. So just those habits, so even in terms of checking with my team, I make sure I've got set days. I check in with my team. If I need to check in with my supervisor, that sort of follows. So I have these. It's like a routine, the habit that I created over the years that has sustained me.
Interesting. Who or what has influenced your mindset and the way of approaching challenges?
Both my parents.
Okay.
So, yeah, both my parents, they attained very high levels in their careers. And I watched them very closely. I don't think they even realized. So even the way they spoke about work, the way they spoke of the people they worked with, the way they spoke about the people they led, I remember thinking to myself, I want to be like that. But I can't think of a better example than my parents. So even to this day, if I'm stuck with something, because they've had all this experience throughout, they started their careers early, like in the 70s, 80s. So I speak to them, we can kind of find like a middle ground. Okay, how were things done then? And then sometimes they'll give me pointers, maybe look at it this way, approach it this way. And for me, they are the best. I learned from them and I continue to learn from them. And because they're my parents, it was more tangible and realistic. So yeah, they are my role model.
That's amazing. On challenges and resilience, and I want to tackle some things with you there. What have been some of the biggest challenges you faced along your journey?
The biggest one.
The breath, the breath means quite a lot of them. Let me see which one I can share.
Which one? Yeah, I think the biggest one was patience. So, again, I came from the West, developed country, I had experience, and I had this dream. Come back home within maybe 2-3 years, I'll make middle management, I'll be successful. And it didn't happen like that at all. I came to a lot of roadblocks. I came to a lot of diversity issues, which were foreign to me. I didn't understand.
Yeah.
And so I had to learn that no one was going to save me. Nobody was going to save me. I had to be intentional with what I wanted. I could have chosen to just give up and say, okay, this is what it is, I guess. But I always knew that I wanted to move up. I wanted to be one of the decision makers. I wanted to be in charge of strategy. And so I deliberately looked at all these challenges that I was facing. I somewhat found opportunity, one way or the other. And that's what gave me the drive and the fuel to push on.
Amazing. Can you share a story of a specific setback that later turned into an important lesson for you or an opportunity?
Oh, wow. Okay.
That's how the interview space is. A lot of drop questions for the interview space. It's where I sit down and prepare a lot of good questions to make sure we take a lot of good learnings and insight from the audience. So just to be honest with you, we're not done yet.
I like that. One comes to mind. So earlier on, I talked about my first job when I moved back to Zambia.
Yeah.
Was I think was IT help desk, so very very low level. And I did mention that the bank was purchased by another bank.
Okay.
And when that happened, it looked like things were starting to change.
Yeah.
And finally, I could get my CV, my experiences, dust them off, and I was happy. And so I presented this to who then was a temporal boss.
Yeah.
And he recognized what I had to offer. He recognized my skills.
Mm-hmm.
And then something happened.
Mm-hmm.
Um, the bank was going through another change,
Okay.
which meant, okay, that step I was supposed to take that way, I'm
Mm-hmm.
going back.
Mm-hmm.
And it was devastating for me because I was just about to catch a break
Mm-hmm.
finally.
Mm-hmm.
But this thing has happened.
Mm-hmm.
But again, for me, I saw it as an opportunity. And so with that came a new set of management. So it was starting afresh. I had to
Mm-hmm.
prove to new people that, listen,
Mm-hmm.
I'm valuable.
Mm-hmm.
This is what I
Yeah.
bring to the table.
Mm-hmm.
And I was relentless. I didn't give up. And I thank God they actually saw it for themselves. They really did.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So that actually paid off.
Okay.
And that's what got me to the position of team lead, which then was a ripple effect for everything else up until where I am today.
Amazing. Thank you so much for sharing that. From a vision and purpose perspective, what keeps you going when things get tough or when the results don't just come as expected?
Mm.
Mhm.
you know, um, Throughout my career, I never knew or heard of women in Zambia or even
Mhm.
around the world who were in tech and who were thriving.
Okay.
I had access to colleagues who were doing big things,
Mhm.
and thankfully they were able to give me guidance,
Okay.
but I'd never heard of a woman doing it. And
Mhm.
so when I started to grow, I thought,
Mhm.
wait, there have to be women somewhere. This doesn't make sense one way or the
Mhm.
other.
Mhm.
And cut a long story short, a couple of years ago, myself and a few others co-founded Women in Technology Network Zambia.
Okay.
And so all of the women
Mhm.
who co-founded this association, we were all are in leadership roles.
Okay.
And so this, to me, it was a way I looked at it as a service to the young lady coming behind
Mm.
me who maybe also feels like, look, I can't do anything in tech. Maybe all I can do is programming, but I'm not good at programming.
Mhm.
And so that then also led us into creating a mentorship program,
Mhm.
because then we're able now to connect the young people and even people who are currently in management roles who just need a mentor, need some guidance
Mhm.
with
Mhm.
their. And
Mm.
for me, that's something I became very conscious about, is
Mhm.
that I'm serving a purpose, first of all. For me, part of my legacy that I want people to remember me by is
Mhm.
that I'm leading by example. And so that's what drives me as well every day. Another thing that drives me is, again, in the tech space in Zambia, it's very small, really, really small. And
Mhm.
I know that if I don't wake up and taste excellence and spread excellence in everything I do, it's very
Mhm.
possible that I ain't it for the next woman.
Mhm. Mhm.
And so
Mhm.
I go in there 100% on myself,
Mhm.
but also because I love what I do,
Mhm.
the excellence comes natural.
Mhm. Thank you so much for sharing. You've mentioned you're in the banking sector. You get early at work around 7:30. I don't know people. I don't know who still get at work at 7:30, especially after COVID. But that's amazing to see that
Yeah.
you're still keeping it up like that. How do you stay connected to your purpose amidst the pressures of work, life, and expectations?
Gratitude,
Mm-hmm.
gratitude.
Mm-hmm.
Um, not too long ago, I had this conversation with some work colleagues,
Yeah.
and that at some point, all of us pray for, I want a better job. We
Okay.
all pray at some point. You pray for this, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then when you get it, and you don't give it your all, you're
Mm-hmm.
complacent. To me, that is disrespectful,
Mm-hmm.
because you prayed for something and it was given
Mm-hmm.
to you.
Okay.
And every day before I go to bed, when I wake up,
Mm-hmm.
it's gratitude.
Mm-hmm.
It's gratitude.
Mm-hmm.
Because I realize, as much as I worked hard for it, but,
Mm-hmm.
I put faith in it. It can also be taken away.
Mm-hmm.
And so I always give it, like I said, 100%. I'm going with
Mm-hmm.
excellence. And the bottom line is just gratitude.
Amazing. Thank you so much. Gratitude and gratitude. What message do you hope people take away from your story?
That you need to be intentional with your future. I think looking at like my parents' generation, grandparents' generation,
Mm-hmm.
some cases they didn't have a choice with what they wanted to do. In
Yeah.
some cases.
Mm-hmm.
And so, for me, luckily, my parents supported what I wanted to do. I'm sure they were like, "What is computer security? Are you sure?"
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But I had support, and for them, they could see that I loved what I was doing.
Mm-hmm.
And so, when you are intentional
Mm-hmm.
and you have a passion for what you're doing, you have
Mm-hmm.
no choice but to excel. That's how I see things. You're going to go in there and give it 200%. You be the best version of yourself. You will lead with intention and you will understand your purpose because you are doing something that you love to do. And I hope that's what people will take away.
Amazing. Looking back, what's the one thing you're most proud of?
My resilience.
It's like I caught
Honestly,
you off guard there.
like I
Mhm,
said, there were a lot of stumbling blocks. I
mhm,
could have easily given up,
mhm,
but I believed in my purpose. I believed
mhm,
in what I had to offer to the universe, what I had to offer to my country,
mhm.
so much that, like I mentioned before,
Yep.
challenges, I turn them into opportunities.
Mhm. Amazing. Ladies and gentlemen, that was Matambila Karima Chuunga, our dynamic and driven individual. Thank you so much, Tambi.
Thank you. Thank you, Christian.